Hi everyone, welcome back to Frank Film Club. This is the film club for lovers and makers in film, and I'm actually giddy because we're talking about Triangle of Sadness today, which is a shit show of a film. First of all, before we get into it, I feel like it's going to be a great conversation, but how are you both? What have you been doing?
Yeah, doing very well. Had a little trip to see my brother in the States, which was nice, and got to hang out with my niece and nephew, and it was brilliant. So have some family time.
What have you been up to?
I went to North Wales to see my family and went up Snowdon, walked up Snowdon, and then just had a really good time with my family.
Lovely.
Yeah. What about?
Do your thighs hurt?
They do. I actually am really feeling it today.
Yeah.
But it was really good.
We're sat down today, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Well, speaking of North Wales, I've been auditioning loads of North Wales kids. Loads of Welsh kids, but loads of North Walian kids.
I love it.
And I really wish you had a North Walian accent. You're letting us down. It is the weirdest accent.
I don't feel like I know what it really is.
Oh, it's
Is
really...
it like Stoke? No.
No,
It's so
quite
weird. It's lovely, but it sounds so strange.
Yeah. I feel like I can't really do it unless I try to speak Welsh.
Is it kind of like in Scotland, in Aberdeen, they have like a really different accent to the rest of
It's definitely
Scotland?
very different to South Wales, yeah.
Yeah, it's really unique.
Oh, should we go for a pint with the boys down at the pub down the road?
Goes up and down like a sing song.
Yeah, it's really weird.
That
really
is
bad.
brilliant.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, I've been doing loads of that and it's been amazing. So anyway, today we're talking about Triangle of Sadness. I cannot wait to speak about it. This is madness of a film. So the film came out this year. It's directed by a Swedish director called Ruben Östlund. It won the Palme D'or at Cannes. Me and Lowry went to Cannes. We did not see any films at Cannes. We were rubbish. We saw a few, but we didn't see this. It was a whole thing.
Didn't get in to see this one.
No, not quite. Didn't quite get into this. Wish we did, but really glad that I've seen it now. And so glad, because we almost didn't do this film. This came in just at the last minute. So really glad that we did. And I hope you feel the same way. So the film stars Woody Harrelson, Charlbi Dean, Harris Dickenson, Dolly, DeLeon, Zlatko, Buric. Okay, I want to know what you think or general thoughts, but I also want to know about your viewing experience, because I think this is when the setting and people around you for watching this film is really important.
Went to the cinema to watch it on Saturday night, and it was a really intimate screen. It was really not very many people at all. And I had also had a little day drink, an afternoon lunch, boozy lunch. And I feel like I was just already in I was so game for it. I was so game for the weirder, the better. And I really didn't know what to expect. I felt like from the trailer it was going to be a comedy, but I also thought it had the potential to maybe be a bit deep or something, and then was absolutely thrilled that it got so silly, so ridiculous, and I was giggling, laughing the whole way through, and then towards the end everyone who was kind of uptight about it also started to let loose, and everyone was just howling laughing. So it was beautiful, because we're quite reserved in the cinema.
Yeah,
we don't really do that. Have you ever been to watch something in the US?
Yeah.
It's people are heckling.
Woo! Yeah, you go get that.
Yeah. But here we're really reserved, so I was just loving the animated reactions from everyone.
Me too.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also in the cinema, although because I was in North Wales, they don't really show this type of film in North Wales.
Yeah,
Any cinemas in
true.
North Wales, so I had to go to Chester to go see this. But I went with my parents, and we made a bit of a day of it, which was lovely. But it was also the type of film I was I don't really know if my parents are going to be into
Well, you
this
texted me
either.
before and was can I go and watch A Triangle of Sadness with my parents? And I was absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there nudity?
Yeah.
In a funny way.
Yeah. But it was so good, and I my parents also really, really enjoyed it. In fact, I tried to get them a little review from them as well, which was quite funny. But it was brilliant. Everyone was just howling. My parents were howling. I was howling, and I think I'm quite reserved in the cinema. Usually, I'll be don't want people to know what's on. But it was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it in the cinema as well, and it also was a small screen. It was an Everyman in Cardiff. And Everyman in Cardiff have started to play some like better films. They were just doing the blockbusters. But I think they've realised that people will go and see films like this. They're probably the same as North Wales. Like, show these types of films and people will go.
Yeah.
Anyway, everyone was... Like, two people left. I think they came back in, but they definitely walked out like during the middle.
Really?
Portion. Yeah.
That's so funny.
And I was sort of like this, but it was just such a riot. And I think that is such a great day out to go and have a little boozy lunch and then go see this film. That's
It
so
was
fun.
perfect.
Who did you go see it with?
I went with Ruben.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. And he loved it too. He, in the middle, I could tell he was like, this is getting too much. But by the end, it just made sense. Like I was saying, because it is one of those ones that can go either way. And I felt like, oh my God, are people going to walk out? Are they going to be like, what is going on? But no one did in my screen. And I'm really glad they didn't, because by the end, everyone was like fully like in love, you know?
Yeah. It was one of those films that when I walked out, people were talking like looking around like, wasn't that good? Like that never ever happened. You just file out in silence.
Yeah.
But I feel like people were like looking around to be like, wasn't that mad?
Yeah.
So it was such a great viewing experience. And I really hope that it is still in the cinema when this comes out, because if people haven't seen it, they should see it in the cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely good to watch with people. I think even in the trailer, like it says, like you should watch this in like a big crowd.
Did they say that in the
Yeah,
trailer?
I noticed that the other day. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it like one of the reviews like pops up.
Yeah, like watch. Yeah.
Oh,
Watch with your mate.
100%.
Yeah, because it is just like such a laugher.
So let's talk about the story first. Have you seen Below Deck, by the way?
No.
Yeah, and this was the first thing that I was thinking once we got to the yacht part, I was like, oh, I know all about this because I am a below deck lover.
Do you know what it is?
I do, but I've not watched it.
It's so good. It's so bad, but it's so good. And that scene where they're like amping up the staff, because the whole thing about this Below Deck is that they get these massive tips. And when she's like going in and out of the jacuzzi for the rich lady, they're all just like desperate for tips, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just like do whatever you have to do.
Yeah. So it really reminded me of that. But I'm going to start with a little bit of I'm not going to ease us in too much. Did you have any sympathy for the characters?
Well, I mean, I just didn't really I love to hate them. And I also felt like they wouldn't really be offended by my opinion of them. So I kind of felt like it was like free to just think they were the most embarrassing people. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I felt like they were so out of touch that it didn't really matter what I thought. They would just like continue being like so out of touch, you know?
Yeah.
I feel similar. I don't really know that I did feel any sympathy for them, but then I don't even know that the film like really like made us try to feel sympathy for them at all anyway.
Yeah.
Apart from maybe when it was a bit more intimate with Carl and Yaya at the very start, and you kind of think it's going to follow them more, and then it doesn't.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I didn't really feel for them, although maybe I did feel for Abigail towards the end.
Yeah, that's true.
But
actually,
she's a very different type of character to the rest of them.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think that's what this film does, and if you watch the trailer, you are like, okay, so it's about fashion, and then you're like quite confused with like how it's going to move through it. And I was a little bit skeptical when I was watching Carl and Yaya at the beginning. How are they going to get it to the place that it looks on the trailer of this absolute madness? Because at the beginning, it's really quiet and like nice and contained and like fun though, because I love seeing castings on films and TV. I think is so much fun because that's what casting's like. No, it's not. Actually, maybe that is what fashion like. Ruben, in fashion, is it like that?
Yeah, Ruben was like, this is so funny because like I feel like it is pretty accurate. Like maybe not right now, maybe it's like more kind of like 2010s or whatever. But yeah, I feel like it's pretty accurate to like the sort of embarrassing, like just kind of humiliating, like
oh my God,
things that you have to do. Yeah,
it's so demeaning. It's not like that is it like that in acting?
No, not.
I'm not like completely unaware.
From behind her desk.
Yeah, it definitely. What I loved about this film is that like it didn't follow like any normal structure that I've really. And I like love films like that when it just commits to like whatever it is and it's like entirely different. And the film at the beginning, like the film that we started with, is like entirely different to how it ended up, but somehow the themes and the message were still like really similar. And yeah, I just really rated that. Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time looking at like formulas, like stories, like structure, like, and then something like this, you're like, oh, well, actually, I mean, you can kind of do whatever you want as long as you commit to it and like you tie it all up, you know?
What was your favourite chapter? Because I think they all work together. But like, if you were gonna go to the cinema and watch one story, that middle, that beginning, or that end, which one would you pick?
Yeah, I would say the yacht.
I actually really enjoyed the island.
How interesting casting. Fashion.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
funny. Really interesting.
That's quite hilarious.
Wow. They're 3 completely different films though, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's funny. So, the genesis of the story. So, Ruben Östlund met his wife 8 years ago, and she's a fashion photographer. Yeah. So, she's like part of this world. And he wanted to make something which was about beauty as currency. And like then I think it evolved then to be like, what else is currency? A relationship's currency, money, power, like what is currency to who? And the people who are in, like have a high status within currency, like not show them as bad, like he didn't want to show people as bad people in this film, but like more of a like zoom out and show how people react when they're in a certain context. So that's why I asked that question earlier, because when he was saying all of that stuff, I was like, yeah, I didn't really feel empathy towards them, but I also didn't think they were awful, really. I didn't think individually they were terrible, but I didn't feel sympathy for them either.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
I was just fascinated by them, really.
Yeah.
Like, just fascinated by these people and quite entertained.
Yeah. They were great characters, all of them.
They were, yeah, no, it's really true. I don't, like, I know you are like, it's like, oh yeah, they're awful, but
yeah,
I enjoyed being with all of them, and I feel like they all like justify their own, they have like all their own reasons for being in their own situations.
Yeah.
Which are, some of them are quite awful, but I don't know, you're like, I feel like you're not meaning to be bad.
Yeah.
None of them.
He talks a lot about the arms dealers, you know, the older couple, the older British couple.
That was the only one I was thinking just then. I was like, oh, actually, I feel like they are obviously so bad, but they all seem so innocent, just like in themselves.
But you don't get to know them as much, so maybe that's why you felt like maybe they're the ones that do feel bad.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just so funny how, like, it's like every single one of them, every single character is like looking at everyone else like, oh, you're the problem.
Yeah.
And that's what's so funny is like everyone can just so easily be like, oh, well, at least I'm not like you.
Yeah, exactly.
And they just think that what they're doing is harmless because they're just like one person. It's just like,
Yeah, exactly. Ruben Östlund, the director of Triangle of Sadness, went on one of these cruises as part of the research project, research for the project. So it started as a kernel of an idea of about the fashion industry, and it grew into this thing that it like became after that like beginning bit there. And all of the stuff that happened on the yacht, a lot of it came from this research trip that he did, including they hit some rocky times, and then he was like, wouldn't this be funny if we had all these people and they were just like their dignity's gone, or like what do they do when they're trying to like convey a certain persona and then these things happen to them?
They're like control. A human that still
totally
is
human.
Sick and poos and
yeah. None of these things that they have are like any use to them when shit hits the fan.
Literally when shit hits the fan. So love that. Right. So budget.
Ooh.
Any guesses in US dollars? Because I didn't do the conversion because I'm lazy.
I really don't know anything about the making of this film. So we'd love to know if you have any facts. I've got a few questions.
Like,
so I think because of that, I don't really know what to guess.
I don't know. I mean, it could be kind of like 10, I don't know, or is that like super ultra low? But I feel like if they just did it in sets, like if it was all just sets, like you don't really see Yeah, it's like just green screen water or like whatever. So I feel like they could just do it all in the studio.
Yeah.
But then the island, oh yeah, the island.
Maybe it was quite expensive because he has done quite a few successful films before, but
He's
all
won the
of
Palme
them
d'Or
were.
before.
But this is
Right.
his English language debut. Is that right? So then I'm thinking maybe it is
More
a
like
bit more. Maybe it
25,
is
or
like
you mean,
20.
20.
Well, in the middle, so 15.
Okay.
Yeah, 50 million US dollars budget.
Amazing.
Um,
Money well spent.
They shot it over 2 weeks. It was on a stage, and they put the set on a gimbal
Yeah.
so that they would move. The whole set was moving. He
Yeah.
said he described it as on a gimbal, but I just thought that was like a camera rig.
Yeah, I suppose.
But is
yeah,
that
that's
just
what I
like
was thinking.
a-
I'm guessing it's maybe that
Yeah.
it's just the.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said that the crew were all getting actually seasick from being on this like not rotating,
Yeah, seesaw.
seesaw set. So like all the chairs falling, that's all like real, like the set is
Okay.
moving. Yeah.
It had such good effect because at the beginning when it started happening, I thought it was just the camera and people standing slanted. But as it went on and like it's not turbulence. What do you call it? Sea turbulence. Waves.
Waves.
Yeah.
As it sort of got more and more extreme, I realized no, like this set has to be moving as well.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. It was such a good effect.
Yeah.
It worked beautifully.
Yeah. Because there were times when, like you say, at the start, I was like, are they just leaning towards certain sides? Because what's quite bizarre, like knowing that it wasn't that and that it was real, that's the amount that some people lean, like the differences in people's leaning, like obviously and they're on like the same slant, was like huge sometimes.
Maybe it was like a combination of both though. Because when we
yeah.
were talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once, like what they did was just like a combination of things where sometimes it was like CGI, sometimes it was like practical effects, and sometimes it was like, and like a combination of all of those things like went to make like the overall kind of thing. So I feel like, and I think even Christopher Nolan talks about this, like when they're doing Zero Gravity, like sometimes they literally just have actors like on one leg behind like a chair being like, so I feel like you could just do a combination and then it, like overall you get enough of like bottles actually sliding down a hill and people sliding down a hill and then like enough people being like, and then it goes into the overall like, but I felt kind of sick watching it. I was like,
Yeah.
But did they ever go on an actual boat, like for the exteriors of the boat, and like go up the slide and everything? Yeah.
They did shoot. I think they shot. I think it was 2 weeks for the sex scene, with like the whole, like through the hallways and in the dining room. That was 2 weeks, and then I think it was 2 weeks, or I think it was 9 days that I saw exteriors on the boat.
Cool. Nice.
So they shot it in Greece and Sweden, I think.
as that whole section was happening, the like vom section, I kind of felt like it was a lot, and I feel like lots of people probably would argue that it was like too much. But it's so rare to see like the ultra wealthy like humiliated like that, and we're so used to seeing like other people humiliated that way, whether they're like taking the mick out of themselves or whatever. But like, there was something about it that was like awful, but I was like, why is he doing this so much? And then it was just like, actually, I've never seen anything like that with like these kind in like their nice underwear, just like literally sliding
Oh
through.
my God, that scene. Well, that woman actually, her like, she did a lot of shots of throwing up, and they're like one shot, and she's sick about 3 times, and like guzzles back some champagne. How did they do that?
Yeah.
Do you know?
Well, they had tubes.
But it looked
But it was
so
it was
good.
really, really good.
Yeah.
Because
Really
I
good
thought
mad.
the same thing. I didn't really quite understand how she did that. But no, it was just tubes.
Tubes,
But
and
that's
then they
the usual, isn't
probably
it?
did probably did a little CG or something, because it literally looked like it was coming directly out of her mouth. It was so funny. I was crying laughing, and everyone was like silent. And then the bit where she's like on the toilet and puking, I like cackled so loud, and then people did start to snigger a little bit, and by the end I was like, I can't be the only one dying laughing. I thought, am I really immature because no one else was laughing? I was like so embarrassed, and then it got to the point where everyone did. I
I think you encourage people to laugh though in those situations. Like, it's okay to laugh, because the couple behind me, they were like hooting. They were really going for it. So,
but then that's also what I loved about like watching it in a room full of people as well. Is that this was like all adults in this room, and everyone's just crying with laughter about people being sick, and like that just seems like it's so immature, but it was actually hilarious.
Yeah,
it is funny.
It is.
I'm really glad that they did that bit in the middle though, so that that wasn't like the thing that you left with, because it was really fun and it was really funny, but like I'm glad that there was a lot more after that.
So true.
Yeah, I did think, oh, we've seen that bit now, maybe we are coming to the end, and then it was like chapter 3.
Yeah, we got a whole lot more.
Yeah. That I actually was a bit like, oh, like I thought that would be the end, and again, glad that it wasn't. But there was a little moment where I was like, caught off guard. It was just the whole thing was quite surprising.
It was really surprising. At the end, with Abigail and The Rock, with Yaya, he wanted half the audience to be like, do it, like hit her over the head, and half the audience to be like, no, like let her be free. Do you know which side? Like, can you remember how you felt in that moment?
I was really torn. I know it was just kind of like I wanted him to give me the answer. I wanted the film to give me the answer of what happened. I don't know how I felt. I was definitely like pro Abigail the whole way through.
Yeah, same.
So it was probably more like do it, but at the same time I was like, oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of wanted her to do it, but I feel like it did get to the point where Abigail was like a little bit powered. I mean, even taking her there and like wanting to like get rid of her because she's not good, it was like a little bit power trip.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked what that said about the whole thing of like anyone being in power and like how it can make you feel and like the crazy things it can make you do. But again, I was like pro Abigail like the whole time. I was very entertained by it.
That is so true though, what you say, like towards the end, especially when her and Carl are like having those conversations in their little boat, and it's like, oh my gosh, she is just becoming one of those people who've like, if they have the power, they justify it.
Exactly what he was saying about making the film. Like, you put anyone in a context, they could get power mad.
I wonder if they were saying that as like, this is what happens when you're in power and you can risk your behavior becoming this way, or if they were just had written Abigail to be that way so as we could observe it as a woman, like as like a woman in that position, and like experience how weird it is, even though we normalize it all the time with guys. Like, I wondered if it was a gender thing or if it was like a power thing. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, yeah. And I don't know which way around.
I mean, maybe it's both and all of it, but yeah.
He wrote this last part. I think this last part in particular, it was around the time of Me Too. And like, just going back to what he says about like beauty as currency, well, that's, what Carl is using in his, to his advantage in this. And if it was a male captain of the island, that, well, it is exploitative, but like, it's funny. We find it funny, but really, if you switch the genders, it is, that's real. That is actually real and not funny.
That was all just like a massive commentary on what the world is, and which seems to be something that Ruben does in his other films. I haven't seen them, but I've heard. I really want to watch them now after watching this. That they're very like social commentary.
Like, my favorite thing about this is all of the things that it was commenting on. I watched it with Ruben, and it was like very two-sided. It was like from a man's perspective and from a woman's perspective. It was like capitalism as like the enemy, but also capitalism as like the system that we should do. And like, I really liked how it kind of, it said everything and nothing, so you could just like discuss it rather than, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And so when the film got marketed, it looks, and I thought it was, like a very like eat the rich film. And a lot of people have said that it's like that kind of film, but that's not what he wanted. Kind of, like, he doesn't want to like give you an opinion.
Yeah. Had those vibes for sure, but like it was such a conversation starter around the whole thing, and I thought that was really clever.
Yeah.
Because in that way, it alienates no one. Everyone would watch this. Like, all the people on the boat would watch this and, like, see something in it. You know what I mean? Rather than it just being for an echo chamber for, like, people who already think the same thing. Yeah. I thought it was clever.
I would really love to know what people from the boat
Take from this.
would take from this. Like, yeah, what would be?
I think it might depend on age though, because there was a 2 out of 5 review in The Guardian.
Really?
And it was an older guy that reviewed it. I think he was an older guy. I'm sure he was.
What did he think?
That it was all just a farce and like just over the top and wasn't really articulating anything.
I mean, literally look at the news.
Yeah, I know.
That's exactly what the news is. It's just like ridiculous pantomime every day.
That's really weird.
That's so funny.
I was really surprised. So I think it probably depends on age.
Yeah.
We get it.
We get it. By the way, we get it.
So let me tell you something that I found so interesting about the way that Ruben made this film. I think it sounds like how he makes all of the films. He does about 25 takes of each scene.
Oh.
And the beginning of the takes are, I don't know how long his shooting schedule was for this film, but he sacrificed things in the budget so that he could have more time. So the first few takes are improv. Then they refine the improv. And then when they're at about 20 takes, he says, right, let's have a break. I mean, this is like an average. It's not like this every time, but like this is like an average scene. Have a little break and then come back. And he has a countdown. He says, right, this is we got 5 to go. We got 4 to go. We got 2 to go. We got 1 to go. And then when they're on number 1, he has a gong, which he then smacks.
I love it.
To be like, this is the final. So he says improv, refine, and then heighten, like bring the energy up.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's
because I feel like so many people would be like, you don't want to do it that many takes because like it would just be dead by the end of it. But I suppose if he's like getting the energy up.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it obviously works because I feel like there were so many parts where you were just like, it was just so energetic. Like even when they're on the island and all the men are like keep blowing the whistle as a joke, and that was like an ongoing joke at Carl, and then that it was just like it just felt really like the actors were actually really in that and really having a laugh and like all those kind of parts.
That's brilliant. It like gets rid of all the nerves, I guess.
Yeah.
Such a fascinating way of working. I feel like I've had to do 25 takes before, but just because I keep doing things wrong. And I feel like it gets to a point where I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing right anymore. And then you just like lose all sense of like what everything
mean nothing.
But like with an actual system, it doesn't sound like torture. It sounds actually just like a game. Like
yeah. I would love to be on a set like that.
Yeah.
I wonder, like that's potentially really, really useful for an actor to know that they have 25 or they've got 24 more takes after this one, which takes off a lot of pressure. Like I wonder how often he does go for the last take or if he actually goes for some of the earlier takes because they're so relaxed and so cool with it. You know, like it must just
I wonder
how
would that feel as an actor? Would you feel like overkill? Like how would that make you feel if someone's like, all of the difficult scenes you've got 25 goes and that's it, but we are doing 25?
Well, so I mean, does he do it with like multiple camera setups and then like just in one go? Or is that every time they move the camera?
That is a great question.
Because if there was like, I think what is really difficult is like the continuity. So quite often you'll like find something and you'll explore in the first couple of setups and then like you're quite locked into something because like this is what we want to match and your hand did this and da 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 da. And I think that really stifles a lot of creativity. But like, I mean, a lot of his cameras are just kind of locked off and pretty straight up the whole time. So I feel like there's not as much pressure to have to then like replicate the same thing that you did. So I feel like it would be an amazing way to work because you can effectively do it 25 different ways and like copy some of the things that you've done before, but like find something new every single time. Sounds amazing. I would love to. I mean, it sounds hard, but like I think you would just learn so much as an actor, like working in that way. Yeah. Because then it doesn't. I always used to think it was about like, I never really used to fully learn my lines so as I could, like, remember them as I was reading. So as it sounds fresh and it doesn't sound rehearsed. But, like, that also sounds like you don't quite know what you want to say next. Whereas, like, sometimes you're having a conversation and you know exactly what you want to say. So it kind of only gives one kind, like, vibe. Whereas if you can, like, know something so well that you then, like, start to rediscover it in new ways, like, that sounds like the sort of style that he does. And like, I find it much harder, but I've been trying to learn to do that more, because then you can do 25 takes and it not be like hell. It can be like, oh, now we're getting something even better, which is like what it's all about, you know.
I think it's so, like, it's so important to understand what you're good at, like, with that, and what works for you with learning lines and with how you are directed. Some people can be directed like that, but some people really need to learn their lines, and they really need to know where they need to stand, and they don't want the flexibility. But I think it's really good as an actor to, like, learn all of those different ways that you can perform,
not get stuck into
and not be rigid. Definitely, it's really cool. So the casting of this project, they just did lots of improv, like really, really long improv, like really painfully long improv, where they just kept the scenes going. And I think you can tell, you know, because these characters are they're so individual, and I feel like they're very developed. And I think that might have happened throughout the casting process. It's the same casting director that did pre-casting on Pleasure that we did last series.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
Her name's Paulina Hansen. Her knowledge of international actors, it must be insane, or like her research.
Yeah.
Because I've not seen a lot of these actors before, but they're like known. Like Dolly de Leon, she's known in Manila.
All across the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fabulous. I mean, everyone just like shone.
Yeah.
Like Dimitri, I was like, how is he not authentic? Like, how is he not like the real person? Because I just like could not. Yeah, I couldn't take my eyes off him. It was so funny.
I actually had that exact thought when did he have multiple wives, or one of them his child, his daughter? I don't know.
I think he probably had a wife and a mistress.
Okay.
I think the older woman was his wife. Yeah, best friends.
Love it.
He's rich.
But when his mistress, I think, is like, "Can I have this one?" and he's like mid conversation, and he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, that just felt, I mean, obviously you want the whole film to feel so real, but I was like, I think you are this man. He was brilliant.
So something that I was really shocked to find out this morning, because I did not know, and I was looking into the actors a little bit more just to see if I had seen them in anything, or if they had been like plucked out of their respective, you know, countries that they mostly work in. Charlbi Dean, who is Yaya, she died.
Oh God.
2 months before this was released.
Oh no.
Oh my gosh.
She had an infection or something, but I had no idea, and I just feel like I didn't see that. I haven't like seen that.
Oh, that's so horrible.
That is so sad.
I know.
Oh,
what an
God.
incredibly talented
Yeah.
girl. That's so awful.
And this was like her breakout.
Yeah.
That's really sad, isn't it?
That is really, really sad. Oh gosh.
Oh my
Sorry
goodness.
I mean,
No, but that's good
I
to
mean,
know that. I
not
feel like
just-
I haven't heard people saying that.
Yeah.
Like,
I just saw a couple of things in interviews where, how has it been doing the press run since Charbli's death? And I was like, who's Charlbi? And then
oh my
no,
gosh, that is awful.
That is so sad.
yeah.
Well, she was really brilliant.
She was
in this. That was
brilliant.
a big shame.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that her work will be forever remembered in this movie, because she's really, really amazing in it.
Yeah.
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 Bittersweet for all of them, really. Was there anything about this film that you didn't like? Because I feel like we've been loving it.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you didn't like?
I feel like I have thought of something,
Yeah.
which was Carl running at the very end, the very last shot. I was like,
Why? Did you think why? Or no?
I think, what was that about? Why are you doing that? And then I was like, they just put that in there to just like bring it back round full circle back to Carl. No.
Well, I don't know.
Ooh.
Like, I was a bit like, it felt a bit plopped on the end, and I didn't really understand why.
I had a theory on it.
Go on.
Well, I thought that he was running because he figured out what Abigail was going to do. Like, why else would Abigail want to go off and walk and talk with Yaya unless she wanted to get rid of her?
I think you're probably right, but I really hadn't, like, up until that point, up until Abigail and Yaya found the resort, I didn't think that Abigail wanted to do that. I think it was only because the resort suddenly came up, it was like her whole new world was going to be crushed, and then she was like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Yeah, I think that's what I thought as well.
Yeah, I had gone back and forth on that too, but only because he was running did I think that.
Yeah.
But I completely agree. I can think both, to be honest with you. Because I spoke to Ruben about it. I was like, why did we see him running at the end? And Ruben said, that was what Ruben said.
Yeah.
Maybe he like had figured out that Abigail was going to hurt Yaya and wanted to stay. And I said, but I thought the decision to hurt Yaya only came when she knew that like things would never be the same if everyone found out about this resort.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I still kind of think that is confusing.
I said to Woz, why do you think he was running at the end? And he said, because it looked cool.
Well, that is the reason why I'm a bit like, okay, maybe if there was one thing, it would be that, because I do feel like it's a bit plopped on to just bring it full circle back to it being about him.
But wouldn't it have been so much better if it was just like
and then
titles?
boop.
Yeah.
That would be so much better.
So much better.
Like,
my one thing about this film, I still think the ADR was off.
True.
I did not notice that
Yeah,
at
there was
all.
a few times where I was like,
I wondered if Paula had been dubbed.
that it was Paula.
It was mainly Paula.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she had dubbed herself many times or if someone else entirely was like dubbing her voice, because there were a lot of times that I was like,
I'm glad I wasn't.
I'm no expert, but this mouth and these words are not lining up.
I completely missed that. So
it's really, I hate that I notice stuff like that, because I'm like, just enjoy yourself. I'm like, okay, I think I know what you're all going to say, which is why I asked the question, what was bad? But final thoughts.
I thought this film was really entertaining and really fun and such good themes. And I was just like really pleasantly surprised by it. Wouldn't have like penned it as something that I should go and watch, and then ended up probably being one of my faves of the year. Brilliant, different, completely new structure. Like so many things about it that I just really enjoyed, respect it. And I'm really intrigued to watch more of Ruben's films. I'm going to watch some of his previous ones.
yeah, I'm completely in agreement with all of that. I just thought it was a hilarious take on capitalism and money and beauty as currency, like you said. Yeah. A great commentary on a lot of things.
Yeah.
What about you, Han?
I'm going to say The Guardian was wrong. The Guardian was wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was very, very entertaining. I met someone at LFF who said that they went to see this film like twice or 3 times.
Oh, wow.
At LFF. Maybe it was twice, because I feel like they probably didn't have 3 screenings. And when I was watching the 16, I was like, but why? But then I think that's why the chapters were just, I think if you would pitch that film to somebody and said, yeah, but then this happens and this happens and this happens, you'd be like, you need to rein that in. You need to make 3 different films.
You need to make a series.
You need to make a series. But I think it was so amazingly crafted, and I think the casting is incredible, and I loved it.
I ended up on a yacht once. Well, I went on that cruise to the Arctic. And it was like exactly like this. I mean, there wasn't all the puking and things like that. But like in terms of like combination of people, like it was exactly like this. And plus we were in the Arctic and we were looking at like the way that the Earth is like being destroyed firsthand. And then, you just have people who are like in their cute like jackets taking photographs and being like, where's all the ice? And you're like, no. And yeah, it was really bizarre. So watching this was like, because I had the most amazing trip. It was like a once in a lifetime trip. Yeah. But for those people that we were with, it wasn't necessarily a once in a lifetime trip. And so it was like, I kind of have this strange relationship with it where like I feel really dirty when I think about being on that boat. Like I feel like disgusted that I was there. But like it was incredible and I'm so grateful. But like watching this movie, I was like it's like caricatures of people, but like it's really not.
Whoa, okay, so is it like a same setup, like they put you on tables with other people?
Yeah, exactly. And it was,
you really get to know the other people. Okay.
Yeah. Over the course of the trip we got to know one another, but it was so funny because on the final night, like we had the captain's dinner, and that one was when there was like a seating arrangement, so like all of the guests were sat next to their other like people that are with them, and it was so funny because all of these like couples were together, and I was like, I had no idea that you were married to you. I thought you were married to you and you were married to you, because like everyone had like not been with their significant other like the entire time, and then all of a sudden everyone's like in the right spot, and I was like, this is kind of crazy.
Oh my God.
That's really bizarre.
It was so bizarre.
Whoa, I'm absolutely desperate to go on one of these cruises.
Oh my God, I am absolutely not desperate to go.
I really am. I'm just so intrigued. I want to know how everyone lives. Like, I need to understand. I really want to understand. Like, I've never spoken to anyone who is like a major business corporation owner. I've never.
Yeah.
And I always listen to podcasts which are interviews with people like that, because I just want that everybody's like just normal people. Did it feel like that though, or did it feel like they were?
Yeah, it was like it was kind of like, so what do you do? And it's just like finance, or it's like I don't know what you call it, but yeah. And then like later you like realize that people are like sons or daughters of like presidents or like and you're just kind of like, what is going, and then I'm like, oh my God, you guys are the ones that can like change the world. Like it's the 1% of the 1%. And then like you realize that they're just like have no idea, you know, like I don't know, just like not aware, not really aware.
That's so depressing.
And like kind people, but at the same time you're just sat there like, oh my God. Actually, on the little boat that took us from the ground to the big boat with all of those people and all of the suitcases, that was quite rocky, and it took us quite a long time. And it really set the tone of like the rest of the trip. It was quite entertaining, actually, when I think about it. People just shouting out like advice to like the driver of the boat of like how he should like dock on the bigger boat. It was funny. Yeah.
Is there a WhatsApp group that you're all on afterwards?
We like got a couple of like numbers of like some people, and they've been really sweet. But like not everyone, no. It was bizarre.
I am just amazed, and I really need to know more. Should we just see the rest of the podcast? Get the pictures out. Cool. That is so cool.
Next week we are going to be speaking about The Devil Wears Prada. You can watch it on Disney Plus, and probably lots of other places. It came out in 2006, directed by David Frankel, and truly iconic. So go and watch The Devil Wears Prada, and we will meet you back here next week for more Frank Film Club. Bye.
This podcast was presented by Wrapped.